Book of the day. This book right here. Happy Monday morning. Hope everyone had a great weekend and are looking forward to actually happy halftime. At the end of the day today, we will officially be at halftime of the year 2025. For those of you who don't know, for those of you who watch these live streams and you don't know about my everyday work, which is not talking about current events, I'm not a news reporter or a journalist, but I do a better job of it than some people who actually have the job title. But my real work, the real work we do is Work on Your Game University. Work on Your Game University is all about personal and professional development, where we have taken the discipline and the systems to help people get to the top of their game, whether in the sports world, business world, etc. We've systematized that and made it into an entire followable, copyable process. And one of the main things that I talk to people about is making sure that there are goals set. We need to have targets, goals, parameters, etc. So being that we have a new month coming up starting tomorrow, and we are in the second half of the year starting tomorrow, all of you need to make sure you have some goals written down, some plans written down for what you're going to do moving forward. So being that today is the last day of the month, I need to make sure that I say that, even though that's not the topic here today. But if you want to hear me talk about that kind of stuff, you can just tune into my everyday podcast. Y'all call these podcasts. Mine is actually a masterclass. Comes out every day. It looks like this. You can find it on Apple or Spotify. It's called Work on Your Game, which is also the name of my company. You can see it right there on that book. You see that book up there. You see it on that hat right there. You see it right there. Work on Your Game is the name of my company. Is also the name of my show. Comes out every single day. Today's episode, we talked about how to be a high value woman. So we talked about being a high value man. I think I did a 3-part series on that. And I said, well, I got a lot of ladies listening to my show. Let's talk about high value women. So I did an episode 2-part series on that, was concluded yesterday. Then today I talked about Newton's 3 laws of motion. Sir Isaac Newton's 3 laws of motion covered in today's episode. It's episode number 3,334. So in case any of you is wondering if I'm a dabbler, I'm not dabbling. We've been doing this every day for literally 10 years. So you can find all that at the link in my profile on TikTok. It's called workonyourgame.live. And those of you watching on the other applications, you all can see it as well in the pinned comment or wherever you are consuming this. So all that out the way, that's not actually even the topic today. Today we're going to talk about Diddy. We're going to talk about P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, and we're going to talk about this trial because I don't know if any of you knew, but it's actually going to jury deliberations now, I believe starting today. I think they probably start court at 9 a.m., so it's 8 a.m. right now. Please like the live if you're watching on TikTok. I see you all are liking the live. I appreciate that. Thank you for liking the live without me having to tell you. Tell me where you are checking in from. Tell me your locations, and then we're going to get into what we need to get into here today with this charge that Diddy is dealing with and that his lawyers have. Oh, we're going to get into all of what the lawyers did and all that in a moment. So as y'all coming in, again, tell me your locations as y'all are checking in on the live. I'm going to make sure my mic is on. I didn't charge the mic set and look like the battery drain, but we'll make sure y'all can hear me. That this mic is connected to this camera over here. Y'all can hear me. I know y'all can hear me over here. So as y'all coming in again, tell me your locations and we will get started in a moment. Marky Man 007, good morning. Classy E, good morning to you. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the building. Classy E said, I'm preparing for my little girl's upcoming birthday. How old is your little girl? Happy early birthday to your little girl. And shout out to you as a parent preparing for your child's birthday. Let's see who we got in here. R. Titus, thank you for the follow. Classy E, thank you. Where y'all checking in from? Tell me your locations as y'all are checking in from. Ohio's in the building. We got a lot of Ohio's I see here. Sacramento's in the building. At Legion of Room said Free Diddy SC. Now, generally, Legion of Room, I don't always buy into the free a person just because they happen to be in a incarceration situation or a legal situation. But in this case, Free Diddy, when I get to my points, I'll explain to you what I think about it. But generally, I will say off top that I generally agree with you there. And then Alan, right after that, said Diddy for prison. So we'll see. We'll see. We're going to talk about it here today. Sherry checking in from Michigan. Shout out to Michigan. Bravo girl from Missouri. Missouri's in the building. Shout out to Middle America. Good morning. Who was that? There was a comment that I just missed. Who was that? Renee DU2. Good morning to you. I'm moving this so I can get a better view of the commentary here. Let's see. Renee, Newburgh, New York. Carol Ann Collins, the number 1, Tennessee. Classy says she will be 8. Happy birthday. Uniondale, Long Island. Fat Fireman Stan. Good morning. Chicago's in the building. Live free. Z said that. Good morning. Legion of Room from Charleston, South Carolina. Elaine from New Jersey. Pagan 13, South Carolina. Joanne from PA. Your screen name says I'm new. All right. Good morning, Joanne. And Grammatico checking in from Florida. Shout out to Florida. Sylvia from Houston, Texas. Shout out to Houston. Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. Now, I've been to Oklahoma, as a matter of fact, several towns in Oklahoma. I've been to Lawton, Oklahoma. I've been to, what other towns in Oklahoma? I can't even remember the names of all. I've been to Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been to several places in Oklahoma. I can't remember all the towns, but I have never, if I had been to Broken Arrow, I would have remembered that name, but I've never been there. So shout out to you, Kat. Good morning. Shout out to Texas. Shout out to Middle America. I've been to almost every state in the country. Chris, good morning from Brooklyn, New York. Hope everyone enjoys the 4th of July weekend coming up. Man, y'all already planning for the weekend? It's only Monday. Kat said Broken Arrow is a suburb of Tulsa. Okay. Shout out to Middle America. I've had a lot of fun in Middle America, but let's get into the topic here today. Diddy trial is now in the jury's hands, which we know. It's now in the jury's hands. So Sean Diddy Combs, all y'all know who we're talking about here, right? So the hip hop mogul turned into a business tycoon. Actually, he's kind of doing both at the same time. He is on trial, we know, for these serious charges that could alter a whole lot of things. He's either going to go to jail. Well, he could go to jail for a little bit of time. He can go to jail. It wouldn't be jail, it'd be prison for a long time. Or he could just walk scot-free in this whole situation. He's not really going to be scot-free because Diddy's going to get a ton of civil cases after this trial is over. So any of you think Diddy's going to be completely out the woods, he'll be out the woods in terms of maybe he can get his freedom. Let's say he beats the feds here, which we're going to discuss, and I'll share with you my opinion and where it's coming from. But Diddy's going to get a ton of civil cases when this is done, and he's going to be paying out a whole lot of people. And because everything that's come out in court that the feds are throwing at him that have been generally pretty much agreed upon by Diddy's defense, he has no even reason to even fight these civil cases. He's going to be paying a whole bunch of people. So y'all keep that in mind, that Diddy's going to be paying a bunch of folks, whether he wins or loses. A whole bunch of people about to make a whole bunch of money from suing Diddy. All right, that's actually next thing that's happening is suing Diddy and then surviving Diddy. There's going to be a surviving Diddy docuseries. I'm pretty sure that's coming too. Sometime in the future. They might have to wait till after he passes away if he wins. But if he loses, that docuseries is coming out. That's coming to Netflix within the next 18 months. Anyway, so the jury deliberation is starting today. I believe they start court at 9 a.m. Maybe they started already. Now, the charges are sex trafficking, racketeering, and obstruction of justice, all of which are federal level offenses that carry major consequences. Sex trafficking means that they are saying, this is what the government is saying. The government is the same as the prosecution. The prosecution is the same as the feds. Okay, so I may use those terms interchangeably here today. Don't want to confuse anybody. So right now the case is the United States government is taking Diddy to court. So the United States government is the same as the government. That's the same as the feds. That's the same as the prosecution. Okay, so no one get confused when I maybe swap language in the middle of this conversation. So the government, who is the ones taking Diddy to court, they are claiming that Diddy used his influence, resources, and his network to transport or coerce individuals across state lines for sexual purposes. The reason this is a federal case is because he did it going through multiple states. That's the reason it becomes federal. If he had only did it in one state, let's say if he did it in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, then it would just be a case of the state of Oklahoma against Diddy. But they said Diddy was doing it in Oklahoma, Texas, Nevada, Wyoming, Hawaii, Alaska, New York, and Florida. So that's where it becomes a federal case. The feds take over. So Diddy did not limit his alleged sexual deviance to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. So Diddy used his influence, resources. He coerced individuals, transport or coerce, across state lines for sexual purposes, often under manipulation, deceit, deception, or threat. Racketeering means, that's one charge. All right, another charge is racketeering. They're trying to prove that he was running a criminal enterprise. He wasn't just doing a business, such as making music and acting and being on TV and selling alcohol to you. He was actually running a criminal enterprise, not just isolated bad things. If you do an isolated bad thing, they just charge you with the thing. They're saying his whole business was a criminal enterprise. The whole thing was about criminal activity, not the front, which was Diddy on stages singing and dancing and wearing shiny suits. They're saying it was a criminal enterprise, and he was organizing and facilitating these crimes as part of a system. Because for it to be a criminal enterprise, there has to be a system and a process around what you're doing. That's what they're trying to prove. Now, all of this becomes semantics, and this is the game of court. This is the reason why we had to have juries and people talking, because if it was all just black and white and objective, then you could send this to Chat GPT and it would solve the case within 30 seconds. But now we have to deal with the semantics and how people are taking the verbiage. And this is the reason why all of you need to be very good at communication, because it plays a big role in how things end up going. So that's what they're saying he did there, and part of a criminal system. And the third charge is obstruction of justice. This accuses him of actively hiding evidence, intimidating witnesses, possible witnesses, and or using his power to prevent legal accountability. Now, multiple witnesses have come forward with graphic and emotional testimony. We heard from them. We heard from Cassie, his ex-girlfriend, who married the personal trainer that Diddy hired for her. And it we know Cassie was still doing the freak off parties. Y'all know about the freak offs, right? Do I need to describe them? All right. Cassie was still doing the freak off parties with Diddy while she was starting to date this man who's become her husband. And I believe she just had her third child with this guy. And he knew exactly what she was doing, because she was clearly confiding in him how she was living and what she was doing, having freak off parties with Diddy while still starting to date this guy. And he married her and had 3 kids with her. And we'll just leave it at that. But anyway, she's come forward. And also we know another woman who everyone has widely believed, and I think it's generally been accepted, is 50 Cent's baby's mother. Her name is, I'm not even going to put her name out there. Y'all look it up. Y'all know her name. If you want to Google it, very easy to find. Very pretty woman. She's 50 Cent's baby mom. She was the other main testimony. And she came up and said a whole bunch of things about Diddy. Thing I'll say about her is that Diddy still to this day is paying her rent. She went on the stand. And first of all, 50 Cent and Diddy have been going at each other for a long time. And she has a baby by 50 Cent. And that baby's not even that young. That kid's probably a teenager now. But that kid that 50 Cent has with this girl, I believe she testified under the name Mia. So we'll just call her Mia. That's not actually her name. But you can Google her name. It's very easy to find. So 50 Cent had a baby with Mia. And 50 was already having issues with Diddy. And seemed like it was entertainment, but they were talking shit to us. Mostly 50 Cent talking shit to Diddy. Diddy wasn't really saying about that. And then she, the baby mom, goes and starts dating. Of all the men in the world that she could date, she goes and chooses to date what seems to be the main rival, one of the main rivals of her child's father. I say flag on the play just to the fact that she did that. Now, whether Diddy pursued her or she pursued him is irrelevant. The fact that that we got a kid together, and that I don't really mess with this dude, and that's the dude you decide to go mess with, or all the men in the world, and she probably had a ton of suitors because, again, she's a pretty woman. She goes and messes with Diddy. So that's a flag on the play, number one, on her. Secondly, and that's not a crime, but it's a flag on the play. Secondly, Diddy is paying this woman's rent, Mia, 50's baby mom. He's still paying her rent to this day. She just went and took the stand for the feds against the man who's paying her rent to this very day. That's another flag on the play. So she got 2 flags. You watch NFL football, there are multiple infractions on the play. multiple infractions by this woman. And Chris Brown has a famous song called "These Hoes Ain't Loyal." I just want to put that on the record. So she went and made a relationship with her baby father's rival, and then the rival, she goes and testifies against the dude while he's still paying her rent to this very day. All right, these hoes ain't loyal. Anyway, let's continue. Oh, so that was Jane? Okay, Jane. So I'm getting Jane mixed up with Mia. Whatever. Y'all know who I'm talking about. All right, 50 Cent's baby mom, that woman. All right, this is some disloyal flag on the play shit as far as I'm concerned. This is not part of the criminal case, by the way. This is just a personal opinion that I wanted to put on the record while we're talking about this. So multiple witnesses have come forward with graphic and emotional testimony, including some of Diddy's former staff members, associates, alleged victims, all painting pictures of intimidation, manipulation, and control. This is the way the feds built their case. And all the witnesses were all from the government / the feds / the United States prosecution. And they all allege that, again, he was intimidating, manipulating, controlling people. The prosecution used these accounts to build their narrative of Diddy as a repeat offender who used his money and he used his influence to basically operate unchecked, and nobody stopped him. And finally, the feds came and caught him, allegedly. Now, the defense, notably, did not call a single witness. This is not something that always happens in court. Usually, the prosecution calls all their witnesses. They call people up there to make the defendant look bad and trash the defendant. And then the defense comes up and they call a bunch of witnesses to basically defend the defendant and make the defendant look good and make the prosecution case look trash. What happened in this situation is that after the prosecution called all of their witnesses, and what happens in court, for those of you who don't know, the prosecution calls a witness, let's say Cassie, and then let's say Jane. I guess Jane, somebody corrected me, said that was Jane. 50 Cent's baby mom was Jane, not Mia. Mia was somebody else. Y'all know what I'm talking about. They call their witness and they ask a bunch of questions to try to make the defendant look guilty. Then the defense, their lawyers, Diddy's lawyers, they get to come up and they get to ask questions of the same persons. They call this cross-examination. So the cross-examination is that's when the real fire comes, because the defense attorneys are going to try to make you look like you're contradicting yourself, make you look like you're lying, make it look like that whatever you just said to make the defendant look bad is actually some nonsense, and basically pull the rug out from under you and discredit everything that you're saying, discredit your credibility. So that's what happens in these cases. And that's what happened with every witness that the prosecution called. And it appears, this is just my theory, and those of you who understand the law understand this, that the defense figured that after all the witnesses that the prosecution called, we don't even need to call any witnesses. We are good just with this as it happened. That everything that happened in court, with them calling their witnesses and us cross-examining these witnesses, they believe, I'm pretty sure about this one, they believe they made a strong enough case just through their cross-examinations that the feds do not have a solid enough case to get a conviction, which must be beyond a reasonable doubt. And I will tell you up front, and I'm going to get into some more points about this, I generally agree with him. I believe the feds have not made a strong enough case beyond a reasonable doubt. Did Diddy do some crazy stuff? Yes, he did. Is Diddy I think we can clearly agree that Diddy is some form of sexual deviant, whatever words you want to call, whatever words you want to use to describe his sexual behavior. Absolutely. Did Diddy beat the shit out of his girlfriend in front of the elevator? Yes, he did. That's on video. We know about that. Is Diddy I guess he called himself a swinger. His actual attorneys called him a swinger. Is he a swinger? I guess so. He said he's a swinger, so he's a swinger. Would I want to go to a party with Diddy? No, probably not. What else can we say about Diddy? Did Diddy use his wealth and power and influence to get things the way he wanted them to be? Absolutely, he did. Is that a crime? No, it is not. None of these things that I just listed are crimes. Well, beating the shit out your girlfriend in front of the elevator actually is a crime, but the statute of limitations is up. He's not on trial for domestic violence. He's not on trial for sexual behavior. He's not on trial for being a powerful and influential man. He kind of is, but that's not actually what the charges are on Diddy. And to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't believe the feds did that. They believe that they did. I don't believe that they did. And as Johnny Cochran famously said in 1990, when was that, 95? If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. I don't think this fits. I don't think this is a strong enough case. Now, that's just me personally. What I personally think is completely irrelevant to the outcome of the case because I'm not on the jury. The jury gets to decide whether he's guilty or not. They all have to agree. It's not like it's the Supreme Court where half of them or a slight majority can say one way and the others say the other way. They must all agree. So if they don't all agree that he's guilty, then they eventually got to all agree that he's not guilty, but it has to be unanimous with the jury. And the burden of proof is on the prosecution, which is why the defense didn't even call any witnesses. We don't feel like they even proved it enough for what they did that we even had to fight back. Well, they did fight back by cross-examining. But the defense is basically saying, again, this is my words, that they don't have to fight back with their own witnesses because this is just not a strong enough case. Please like the live on TikTok, please. Can we get the 25,000 likes, please? Please like the live if you're watching on TikTok. So it appears to me, and this is what the defense said, there's a account on, for those of you who don't know about it, there's an account on X. I was just looking at this yesterday. It is called Diddy Trial Daily. Is this account right here? Diddy Trial Daily has about 20,000 followers. Whoever this is running this, they give daily updates on the Sean Combs trial. And this person actually reads out, it's a man, obviously, reads out the defense's final argument. So the closing argument by the defense, he actually read it out loud, what they said, because you can't bring cameras into the court in a federal court case. So there are no cameras in the case. That's why all you see is pictures. And Megyn Kelly shouted them out. Daily Diddy reposted that. And then the entire prosecution's closing argument. So I listened to these the other day. Prosecution's closing argument was 22 minutes. The defense closing argument was 20 minutes. You can listen to these right here live on X. Right, not live, but right there on X. So you can listen to the whole thing. Personally, I listen to things on 2x speed. So this takes no time at all. You can listen to this while you're washing the dishes. And this person is basically giving updates by the minute of everything that's happening in the Diddy trial. So if you want to know what's happening in the Diddy trial, I would suggest you follow these folks because they're telling you exactly what's happening. There have been no updates yet today because I believe court probably starts at 9 a.m. Eastern and it's not even 8:30 yet. So it appears to me, this is what the defense said, and not in so many words, but this is what they've said. Diddy's on trial for being a powerful black man who built a business in America, and the government is trying to use that against him as if there's no way that this black man could have created a successful business without having done something criminal. That's what the defense is trying to frame this as. They're not making it so much about race, but they haven't hesitated to mention race. This is a powerful black man who built a successful business, and he is well known. He's done so many great things, and now the feds are trying to bring him down because of his sexual deviance, and because he has power, and because he has some women who both admitted, Cassie and 50 Cent's baby mom both admitted that they were in love with Diddy. They both admitted loving him. And they both have shown text messages, images, etc., that got shown in court to the jury. They didn't get shown to the public, but shown to the jury that they were saying, I love you. I love doing this. I love spending time with you. I love being around you. I miss you, etc., etc. These are the type of things that the women were saying to Diddy in the midst of the relationship. And their argument is, well, these women are in love, and maybe at some point they were scorned. Maybe their relationship is over, and people are trying to take any isolated incident that happened in the relationship, and you're trying to turn that into a crime. And this is what one of the defense people said. They said, if you have sexual intercourse with a man 76 times, and on time number 72, you didn't really like it or you didn't really enjoy it, does that mean that it's a crime? And if you go have sex again 73, 74, 75, 76, that's not really a crime. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but you can go listen to Diddy Trial Daily, and they actually tell you exactly what these defense attorneys said. They're saying that they're just trying to extrapolate here. That's what they're doing. They're extrapolating these negative things that get said about Diddy on the stand, and they're trying to extrapolate these into crimes when he was literally in relationships with these women. So they're trying to get these sexual crimes when he's with them. So how are you going to charge a sexual crime with that? Now, I know technically you can do it, but really, are you going to take somebody to court on that? Would you take your husband to court on that assault? Really? That's what the defense is saying. I'm not saying that this is the way you need to see it. I'm saying this is what the defense is saying. And generally, again, you got to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. I don't think they've done it. But again, that's just my opinion. So while Diddy's past behavior is morally questionable, I think we can all agree to that. Diddy will probably agree to that himself. They seem to be focusing on attacking his character. This whole case has been about Diddy's character. It's been about attacking his character, attacking him as a man, attacking him as his reputation. And again, you can't go to jail for having a negative reputation because they've done it. They've successfully stained his reputation. But do you go to jail for that? Is that a crime? Having this negative reputation? I believe they have proved that, but that's not the crime. Also important of note, Diddy didn't flip on anybody. He didn't implicate anyone. He didn't take the stand, of course. They didn't even call any witnesses. He didn't flip on anybody. He has not implicated anybody. When this charge first happened, here's what a lot of people were saying and thinking. And I thought there was a possibility of this, that we know that Diddy is not at the top of the music industry. We know the music industry is not even run by black people. We all know that, right? So the people who put the money in Diddy's pocket, those people have more power than Diddy has. They're not as famous as Diddy. Many of you don't know their names, like you know Diddy's name. They don't have songs out there. They don't do dances, but they got more money than Diddy got because they run the industry that he works in. People thought, hey, maybe Diddy will flip on some of them and say, well, look, this lifestyle that I'm living, this sexual deviance that I'm partaking in, please keep liking and live on TikTok. Can we get to 30,000 likes? This sexual deviance that I'm partaking in, hey, I didn't just come up with this out of nowhere. I didn't find this in some Kama Sutra book. I learned this from this guy, that guy, and that guy. These are the guys in the industry that put me on in business. They showed me this and some things that we did together. I learned it from them. So they're the ones who actually are responsible for me being how I am. Some people thought he might do that. Diddy didn't do that. Diddy kept it solid. He kept it solid, and he has, as some people like to say, he has stood tall to these charges. He didn't snitch on anybody. He didn't tell on anybody. He didn't try to implicate anyone else. He didn't say to the feds, hey, I'll tell on this person, this person, this person, in exchange for a lighter sentence. Some people thought he might do that. Diddy didn't do that. So one thing you do have to give credit to Diddy for is that he stood tall against these charges, whether he wins or loses. That does need to be said. And he didn't implicate anybody else, despite the claims that his early financial backing came from people who are more powerful than him. That's not a claim. That's a fact. Diddy didn't get into the game. Diddy didn't come into the game with millions of dollars to invest into what became his companies. There were people who had the money. They liked his vision. They gave him the money, and he used that money to go, and he gave him this much money. He used that and went and got that much money. That's pretty much how he got himself on in business. That, again, that's not a claim. That's a reality. Now, depending on how you look at this, you could say that that's loyalty. You could also say that it's protection. We don't know, but we do have to say that. So please keep liking and live, folks. Can we get to 30,000 likes on TikTok? Multiple witnesses testify experiencing some form of... Oh, my mic's about to go down on Instagram. Good thing I checked it. Let me change my mic real quick. Instagram, can y'all hear me? Somebody on Instagram, just leave a comment. Let me know you can hear me now. Just change the microphone. It should be good. So multiple witnesses have testified to experiencing abuse or seeing coercive behavior. So what the feds are trying to say is that this guy just has a pattern of these behaviors. That's how they're trying to push this RICO charge, that this is just a pattern of behavior for this criminal enterprise. My challenge to that is, how are you going to say this man's running a criminal enterprise when it's obvious what he does? All you know who Diddy is. This guy, we don't know him because he was doing crime. We know him because he made a bunch of songs. He put on a whole bunch of other artists. Excuse me. He's a well-known entertainer. He's doing events. He's doing dances. He's out there doing business. He's on the Ellen Show. He's on the Tonight Show. He's rapping at the basketball All-Star weekend. Diddy is doing all kinds of things. But these are legitimate business operations. Whether you're a fan of his is beyond the point. But we know that this guy's actually doing legitimate business. How are they going to say this is a criminal enterprise more than it's anything else that he's doing? And they tried to make it seem like because he was using his staff members to do things that they were part of the crime. That's a nonsense. I have followed everything that's happened in this trial. All right, this is a nonsense argument that they made. And hold on to that thought as I talk a little bit more about this. So they brought a bunch of Diddy's assistants up to the stand to not to argue, but to testify about Diddy and what he had them doing and how they would have he would have his assistants go buy the baby oil and carry around cash so they could pay the escorts and book flights for Cassie or book flights for or call X person or Y person escort man that they wanted to use for a freak off that was happening, or how one of them would have a bunch of cash and they would tip the hotel staff who had to clean up the room after the freak offs because Diddy and them using baby oil. Y'all know anything about oil. You get oil on anything, especially cotton, just destroys shit. And Diddy would get extra charges from the hotel for destroying rooms, et cetera, et cetera. Diddy did this all the time. He would have his staff involved in paying these people off and booking flights, et cetera, et cetera. And they're trying to draw the line that is a form of a criminal enterprise because he had his staff involved. There's multiple people. A couple things on this. Number one, you're going to charge somebody with RICO, there needs to be co-conspirators. RICO is a conspiracy. One person can have a conspiracy. You need at least two. Who else was involved in this conspiracy? They gave granted immunity to Cassie, as she was supposed to be the co-conspirator here. But at the same time, she was in love with the guy. They were in a relationship for like 10 years. And she was going along with a lot of this stuff. There are text messages showing she was happy to schedule the next freak off and call the escort that she wanted for the next event. She was asking the men to urinate in and on her. And again, this is all testimony in court, folks. So TikTok, don't take me down for saying that. This is all testimony in court that she testified to. And she was all part of this. She was all in this. So how are you going to call this a RICO case? They're trying to claim a conspiracy when they only got one conspirator. I don't think Cassie was a conspirator. I don't think she was looking at this as a criminal enterprise. She was looking at it as, I'm in a relationship with this guy. He has power. I like him. This is how we're rolling, and this is what we're doing. Again, what they were doing is not the crime, at least the sexual stuff. And they're trying to say that this is some type of enterprise. Doesn't make sense. Then 50 Cent's baby mom, she was, again, with him, and she wasn't always into the freak-offs. Didn't seem as much as Cassie got into them, but she was with it, and she was going with it, and she has text messages saying, hey, I love this. I want to be with you. I miss you. I want to be around you, etc. As far as Diddy's staff, did Diddy staff sometimes, let's say, pay a person or they carry some money around, or they book flights? Sure, but Diddy was actually doing business. It's not like he was like, all right, I'm just going to go to Miami just so I can transport this person and that person, and we're going to do that, and that's the only reason why we're going. Diddy was doing business. Any of you who's read any articles about Diddy? And I've read all of them because I've known about Diddy since he first came out, and he called himself Puff Daddy in the 90s. And this guy built a brand. He built best way to describe it is a brand. He made himself into a mogul in the entertainment industry and has a lot of fans from that, not from this shit, which we didn't really know about to the case. Is that when I read the articles about him, they always interviewed people, artists who were with him, staff who worked with him, other people in the industry who've interacted with him. And they all say the same thing about him, is that the line between work and play does not exist. He's basically severely blurred that line to where there's no line. So many people, there's a strong line between when they're working and when they're playing. Like me, for example, there's a strong line between when I'm working and when I'm not working. Diddy didn't have that line. He's in the entertainment industry. So he's a guy who, he would be in the nightclub at 3 a.m. with holding bottles up. And at the same time, that's part of his work, because part of his job is to be the guy who's in the club. And when he's in the club, other people come to the club and he makes money for being in the club. At the same time, he has an artist who has a new song out and he's trying to get the DJ at the club to play the song. So this is all part of his work. Then the next morning he's in the studio doing work. And then let's say he's having sex with a bunch of girls. Well, that's kind of part of the image that he created. The brand image of Diddy is, I'm this guy who has these shiny suits and these nice cars and these nice clothes, and all the girls like me and all the men want to be like me. And I'm partying and I'm making money and I'm drinking champagne and I'm making music and I'm getting all the girls. And I'm doing all of it at the same time. He has created this image. He's cultivated this image over 30 years. So all of a sudden, they're trying to take his staff who worked for him and helped him do these things and say this is part of a criminal enterprise. That doesn't even make logical sense. It doesn't make logical sense to me. And this is the case that the feds are trying to build here. And this is the reason why I say if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Now, this just doesn't fit. It sounds good, but if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. And this doesn't fit as far as I'm concerned. Now, these trafficking acts, there's no physical evidence linking to these. All it is stories. That's why the prosecution called all these witnesses, for the witnesses to say, this is what happened, and we did this, and we flew to this place, and we organized this. There's no physical evidence linking to this forced trafficking. So they said that he is forcing trafficking, not you travel with your girl and some dude to have sex. That's not a crime. But if you force people to do it, then you're trafficking. And they're doing things outside of their will. That makes it trafficking. Well, the escorts that they were hiring, because those of you don't know the details of this case, Diddy is a swinger, and he swings both directions, if you get what I'm saying. They would hire men to come into the freak-offs. Men would be at the freak-offs. And Diddy wanted this. He would want the men, and he would tell the men what to do to the girl, and then he would do something with the girl after the man did something with the girl. And y'all can go listen to my old lives on my YouTube channel to find out the details, because I've talked about this stuff. They're saying that this is forced trafficking. Well, who's being forced? The men were doing it because he was paying them. And the woman was doing it because she was in love with him. They were in a relationship. So what's the forced trafficking? What the prosecution is trying to say is that, again, if they had sex 75 times, but on time number 63, you didn't really feel like it, but you did it anyway because you loved your boyfriend, that's forced trafficking. That's bullshit. That's not a strong point. I can't go with that. I can't go with that one. If it doesn't fit, you must quit. Now, the prosecution's case is framed around systemic behavior over decades, and it gives jury a timeline, a pattern, not just isolated moments. So they're saying this is just how this guy's been living. This is just what he's been doing over the years. The problem with this is that this is not a civil case. If this is a civil case, then Diddy would lose. I'll be on here telling y'all Diddy's about to lose. If this is a civil case, like he's losing. Whatever amount they sued him for, he got to pay. I would say it's over. But this is not a civil case. This is a legal case or a criminal case, excuse me. And in a criminal case, the burden of proof is on the prosecution and it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. In a civil case, the burden of proof is more likely than not. In other words, 51% to 49%, you win a civil case. This is the reason why a lot of people, when they get sued, and if you get sued, that's a civil case. A lot of people, when they get sued, they just pay off the person who's suing them because they know the burden of proof is so low, more likely than not, that they're probably going to lose anyway. So we might as well not even pay the lawyers and pay $50 million. How about we just pay you off $20 million? We'll save ourselves $30 million, save ourselves a bunch of time, save ourselves the lawyer fees that you go to hell away and never bother us anymore. This is the reason why a lot of civil cases get paid off. This is the reason why I said at the beginning of this presentation that Diddy is going to get a ton of civil cases and a bunch of people are going to get paid because he has no even point of going to court and trying to fight these cases because a lot of it's already come out in court just now and his defense pretty much admitted to it. So he's pretty much going to pay off a whole bunch of people who are going to sue him after this is over. That's guaranteed to occur. In addition to already having paid off Cassie $20 million, then she goes and testifies against him. But she might have been coerced by the feds, but still. So this prosecution's case is framed around this is behavior over a decade. And again, since the burden of proof is beyond a reasonable doubt, at the same time, everyone agrees, no matter how you feel about Diddy, that he was running a serious business and doing business things, music, acting, TV, entertainment, whatever hell else he had going on. He was doing a whole lot of things that are legitimate business in the entertainment space. If you mix those all together, then how can you say beyond a reasonable doubt that it was a criminal enterprise? The answer is you can't. Which is why if I'm on the jury, this is the case that I'm making to the rest of the jurors. Like, how could you possibly say beyond a reasonable doubt that this is a criminal enterprise? You can't. Not beyond a reasonable doubt. You can make an argument for it, but beyond a reasonable doubt, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, the defense called no witnesses, and this could imply a lack of counter narrative or faith in the reasonable doubt alone, as I already told you. They don't need a counter narrative. They could go with whatever's been said. And this is what I respect about Diddy's case, his defense case, is that they're looking at this and saying, okay, all those things that got said about him, all they're doing is attacking his character. I think Diddy's reputation is strong enough in the community that he beats his case. He's going to come back outside in some way. It ain't going to be the same, but he can come back outside, metaphorically speaking. And he didn't even need to defend his reputation on this. He said this is good enough because what they're trying to charge him with is much strong. What they're trying to do to him is much stronger than how they've attacked his character. I think their burden is way higher, and I think he can beat this because he's already built a reputation. Now, this emotional testimony from the accusers, alleged accusers, Cassie and 50's baby mom, it humanized the victims, and this could have a strong psychological effect on the jury, but I am skeptical. I don't think so. We're at 40,000 likes almost on TikTok. Can we get to 50K, please? Can we get to 50,000 likes, please, on TikTok in short order? I want to pull Kevin Samuels on y'all, but let's get the 50,000 likes on TikTok. Just like the live. If you're on TikTok and you don't know what it means to like the live, it just means tap the screen. You see those little hearts coming up in the bottom corner right there. If you tap the screen, the hearts come up, and then we get up to 50,000. Right now, I see this number right here. It looks like 40,000 to me. Let's get up to 50,000. In some ways, yes, this emotional testimony, the women crying on the stand, et cetera, can make the man look like he's some type of monster. Technically, yes, it can. The challenge with this, same challenge as before, is that the cross-examination shows that they're crying not because they felt like they were necessarily done wrong, but because they were in a relationship with this guy, and relationships have ups and downs. You're in a relationship with someone for 3 years, 5 years, let alone 10 years, there's going to be ups and downs. There are going to be times of that relationship that if recalled, especially on the stand in a federal trial, that it might make you cry when you're forced to talk about it. All right, that happened to Cassie. It happened to 50's baby mom. All right, does that mean that he's a monster? And do I think that had a strong psychological impact on the jury? I don't think so. Now, I might be wrong about that. We'll see what the jury returns, but I don't think so. Now, defense claims that this case is all about sexual deviance, which I've already said. It's not about criminal conduct, which I've already said. And the jury may separate the morality from the legality. And the defense, that's their job. That's literally their job. Again, Johnny Cochran, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. That is the job of the jury to understand that let's understand what we're talking about here. Same as with the OJ case. OJ case, it was clear that OJ had been physically violent with his wife or ex-wife, whatever she was by that time. He had been physically violent with her. The cops had been called multiple times, and he possibly had a motive because she was now with a different guy. And he was a jealous guy. None of that says that he actually committed the crime. None of that is proof that he committed the crime. And this case doesn't fit, so you must acquit. Johnny Cochran did an excellent job. We all know Johnny Cochran's name because of that, 30 years later. Now, Diddy's lawyers, not as popular, but should use the exact same approach. And they did. If you listen to the closing arguments that they made, they pretty much did. Now, these charges carry federal weight, and they are not easily brought. So it suggests that the DOJ believes they have the case. DOJ being the Department of Justice, that's the department that basically decides if they're going to bring a case against somebody. And it costs a lot of money to do a federal case. It's the reason why the feds win a large percentage of their cases, because they bring a lot of money. They have all the money. They got as much resources as they want, and they can basically access whatever amount of information that they want to access. If they want to come after you, they're going to come after you. So there's no person, all of you listening to this right now, if the feds want to come after you, they will find you. They will get you. They will at least bring you to court. But you can't evade them if they don't want to be evaded. They want to get to you, they're getting to you. And I'm bringing that up to say that they don't do this unless they feel like they have a pretty good chance of winning. And if they decide to get in the game, they have unlimited resources to try and win. Their resources are unlimited. The feds can afford whatever you can afford, they can afford times 10. So you got lawyers, they got lawyers times 10. All right, you got witnesses, they got witnesses times 10. And imagine them knocking on your door and saying, hey, we know this about you. We need you to testify against this person, or we're going to bring this case against you. Well, what you going to do? You're going to testify. So I understand the people who testified against Diddy may have done so. They didn't really want to, but given the proposition that was presented to them, they probably didn't have a choice. I don't think Cassie had a choice. And she's the whole case. Cassie's the whole case. Cassie had refused to testify, for those who don't understand, because she's looked at as the main co-conspirator in this case, for those who don't know. Cassie was granted immunity by the feds to testify against Diddy. Immunity means we know you did a certain crime too, or at least we think you did a certain crime, and we would accuse you of it, but in exchange for not accusing you of this crime and basically never taking you to court over this crime that we believe you did, Cassie, we want you to testify on our behalf against the person who we are going to charge. So basically they said to Cassie, we think you and Diddy did crimes together, and we would charge both of y'all, but we'd rather get Diddy than get you. So you testify on our behalf, and we won't get you. Just help us get Diddy. These hoes ain't loyal. These hoes ain't loyal. Anyway, now I'm not even saying Cassie's wrong for that, because she wasn't with Diddy anymore. She was with a different dude. So, I mean, I understand the difficulty of the position that she was put in. However, Diddy paid Cassie $20 million. Then she testified against him. These hoes ain't loyal. Now, I got to say it for a fourth time here today. She was with him for 10 years. He put her on in music, and I don't know any of you's taste in music, but Cassie is not a good singer. And he put her on, helped her put some songs out. She was on a few records here and there. Cassie's just not a good artist. She's a very pretty girl, but she's just not a good musician. She ain't got it. And then he paid her $20 million when she sued him. And then right after that, she agrees to cooperate with the feds as the star witness of the case to bring down the guy she was with for 10 years who put her on in music. And the only reason any of us know her name is because of Diddy, not because of her talent. Because on talent alone, Cassie would not have been in the game, in the music game at least. And she maybe should have been a model or something, but she wouldn't have been in the music game on talent. She ain't had no. She was with Diddy. Diddy's got the fucking magic touch when it comes to music. Name all the artists Diddy put on. He couldn't get her on. All right, and she was his girlfriend. All right, of all the people Diddy wanted to help get on, when he wanted to help his fucking girlfriend, he couldn't even help her get on. Now, according to testimony, he was holding her career back and not letting her do stuff because he wanted her more for the freak offs and he wanted her for music. Listen, if she could have made money with music, if Cassie had Notorious B.I.G.'s talent, then she would have been out there on stages. If Cassie had Beyonce's talent, then Cassie would have been making songs or making albums. So she wasn't doing that because she wasn't that good. And then she went and testified against the man after he gave her $20 million. These hoes ain't loyal. That's just what it is. All right, let's continue. So lack of cooperating witnesses from Diddy's inner circle. So there was no real big name from the inner circle who testified against Diddy. I mean, the closest you could say to inner circle would be these girls, but they weren't part of the inner circle at the time they testified. And even Diddy's, like some of his right-hand men, his right-hand personal assistant, they weren't called to the stand. they didn't really have anybody who was super close to him, just people who were orbiting and in the business, workers, basically, and girlfriends. And Diddy's refusal to take the stand or quote unquote clear the air, it leaves perception to speculation, which I think we all understand in these kind of cases. There's no point in Diddy taking the stand. He didn't have to take the stand because they already destroyed his, not even destroyed, they sullied his character and his reputation. But again, I take that as what they're doing with that undermines what they're trying to charge criminally because his reputation and his character are not on trial. I don't think the prosecution did a good job here. They probably think they did, was why they took on the case. I don't think the jury is going to find Diddy guilty, but I could be wrong. So I want to know what y'all think. First of all, if you're watching right now, tell me guilty, not guilty. What do you think right now? Then we're going to go through all the comments. Tell me guilty or not guilty in the comments right now. And get the likes up, folks. Get the likes up, folks. We have 48,000 likes. Get my likes up. Don't make me pull a Kevin Samuels on y'all. Get the likes up. We're at 49,000 likes. Guilty or not guilty? Just straight off the top. But no explanation. Just guilty or not guilty. So I'm seeing some guilties. I'm seeing not guilties. Vivian said not guilty verdict, but he is guilty. Guilty of what? What's he guilty of? So not guilty and free Diddy. On God, guilty. I'm seeing some guilty. All right, we're at 49,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 50,000 likes? We're almost at 50. Then we're going to get to 100. Some said guilty on some. Okay, that's possible. He could get guilty on some. Gemini said guilty on Rico. 14 said after your commentary, not guilty. Well, this is what the defense attorneys should have did in court. So let's assume that they did. Classy said guilty because I don't like him. That's not a good reason. Classy E, if it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Arthur said guilty morally, not guilty legally. There, I'm fine with that one. Good Free said he's guilty of violating labor laws. I don't know about that. Traditional said no, free Diddy. Renee said he's a freak, but we've known that for years. Yes, Wendy Williams been exposing Diddy as a freak like in 1997, but nobody wanted to listen to her back then. But anyway, let's get into the commentary here. Let's see if we can go. I think I can get through without a bathroom break here today. We're going to try. Should I try to go through this without a bathroom break? I'm contemplating. We are. Oops. I'm gonna sound on LinkedIn. Okay, so I think we could try to get through without the bathroom break. YYX said not guilty. These hoes ain't loyal. Yeah, these hoes ain't loyal. I mean, the 2-star witnesses in this case are girls that he was dating that were with him, and then they're gonna go and testify against him. That's the game, man. You got to show me the Carfax. You better check the background of these women, the character of these women before you get into a relationship with them. Because the woman who's going to testify against you, all right, that shouldn't happen. Pagan said, I've been to Broken Bow, Nebraska. I didn't know there was a place. Never heard of it. Pagan said he's going to be a literal puff daddy. What does that even mean? China H, good morning. Silver Key said, good topic. Thank you for sharing. I'm honored to receive the knowledge. All right. Well, wait, you're welcome. Joel says testified as Jane. Okay, so 50 Cent's baby mom is Jane. Okay. Fair enough. Mr. C-Rack says, someone sent a subpoena. You are saying we can decline. Yes, that's the reason why I talked about that again later. I get it. But she also could have said, no, I'm not going to testify against that man. And well, it depends on how they did it, actually. It depends on how they did it, which we don't actually know. Good morning, Wifey Tips. Legion said the parties are voluntary. The prosecution was a joke. I agree, but doesn't mean he can't lose. Strategic said defense didn't want to put their foot in their mouth by calling in witnesses. Weak case with the prosecutor. Right. Well, they didn't need to. They didn't need to make this case any longer than it needed to be. But let's see. Let's make sure that let's find out what actually happens first before we say the prosecution messed up. Maybe this is enough and they'll win. And if they win, then the defense is going to be looking crazy because y'all didn't call any witnesses and y'all left an opportunity on the table. So it really depends on how it works out. Gemini Gypsy, good morning to you. People all said OJ was guilty too. Guilty of what? If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. Straight Edge sent, I'm new here. Thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Reason said he is definitely not a good role model, but he's not guilty of these charges. Well, it depends on role model for what. Now, is he a role model for what you might want to do with your girlfriend? No, probably not. Is he a good role model for how to build a brand and a business and an image around that? Yes, he is. So it depends on what you're looking at him as a role model for. TZ said, heard Diddy was pouring baby oil on your head and whispering in your ear. You talking about me? Not me, but some other people. Pagan said, baby oil sales are down, free Diddy. Well, Diddy was buying them things in bulk. He was getting them at Costco. He wasn't buying them at retail. Pioc said, MAGA wants Diddy guilty. Do you agree? I think MAGA is indifferent to Diddy's plight. Reason said, can't go to a Diddy party 10 times and be like, I was uncomfortable with it. Well, it depends. It was two different kinds of Diddy parties. So we all got to be clear on that. There's the Diddy party that you see on Instagram. I will go to that party. Now, the after party, I'm not going to. I'm not going to the Diddy after party when the music is off and there's no DJ. I'm going to the Diddy party when everybody's watching and there's a bunch of cameras in there and everybody's taking pictures and posting them on your Facebook. That Diddy party I will go to. And not necessarily for Diddy himself, but because Diddy knows a whole lot of people and there's a lot of influential people who I might want to rub shoulders with. I'll go to that Diddy. I'll go to the above ground Diddy party. I ain't going to the underground Diddy party. Okay, so let me be clear on that. The above ground Diddy party, I will attend. Mia Muse, thank you for the follow. Stella, thanks for the follow. Pauline Mescapo, thank you for the follow. Strategic said prosecutors didn't execute due process. Yeah, we'll see. Britt said, is Diddy getting the charges dropped? Well, the charges ain't getting dropped. They're at trial right now. So the charges are absolutely not dropped. It's just a matter of guilty or not guilty right now. Strategic said, what happened to Oprah, TD Jakes, and Obama taking a stand? Yeah, that was just speculation. That was just speculation. Pagan said, we're in a time where people think personal opinions matter more than facts. Well, on many levels, Pagan, they do, because people don't have to accept any facts they don't want to accept these days, because it's very easy to go and Google or AI any fact that you want to find to counter any fact that you don't like. It's the reason why facts don't matter nearly as much as they used to, and they're going to matter less the further we go. Carla, Indiana, good morning. Nikki Ray said, I don't think they were. No, that wasn't the charge. The charge wasn't that. He just filmed it and kept it. The fact that he filmed it hurt him too, because Diddy filmed a whole bunch of his freak-offs. Bad idea, because they used that against him. Deidre Newton said, were financial records of witnesses part of discovery or testimony? Well, discovery, I don't know. As far as the testimony, they brought up money only to say things like Diddy told his assistant to book a flight for Cassie to go to this town because that's where Diddy's at, and then call the escort and pay the escort. So finances in that way, but not financial records like here's how much money you got, because that wasn't really part of the charge. Strategic says, seems like it was about ex-girlfriends and escorts, not RICO charges. But that was part of it. Part of the RICO charge was how he was maneuvering with these people. But the issue is all of it was there was a blurred line between work and play. So how can you make this a criminal enterprise when his work and his play was all mixed together? Just on that alone, this case should be a clear not guilty. What Tree said, well, you said you had to have at least one other person. Cassie was it. Yeah, no. The problem is what Tree said is that Cassie was his girlfriend. And the thing they're saying was criminal is Cassie wasn't doing it as a crime. Cassie was doing it as this is my boyfriend and I want to go along with this. And she was doing it voluntarily. She was willingly involved. So where's the crime? The crime is what they're saying is that he forced her into doing it. So what crime did she do that she didn't want to do? He wasn't forcing her into the sexual activity. She was voluntarily engaged in the sexual activity. And again, they had sex 30 times, and on time number 22 and time number 16, she didn't like it. Does that make it a crime? I say it does not. Now, some people say it does. I don't think so. Live Free said, I don't want or didn't want to be like Diddy. Okay, I never said that you did. Why'd you say that? Classy E, thank you for the gifter badge. Carla said, dangling carrot in front of fortune and fame isn't forced. That's correct. It is persuasion, but it's not forced. It's not a crime. Nikki Bird 1, thank you. Jeff Pierre said, they were drugged and could not consent and having a pattern of abuse to compel cooperation. No, they weren't. They were on the drugs. They took the drugs, but I mean, I shouldn't even be using that word. The pharmaceuticals that if you're on you take them often enough, you develop an immunity. You may need more and more. He was on them too. So to say that they couldn't consent is not like he just did it one time and then, they woke up the next day not knowing what happened to them. They knew exactly what they were doing. Again, they testified to this. Cassie knew what she was doing. 50's baby mom knew what she was doing. They might have said to him afterwards, hey, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to spend time with you. And then Diddy was like, no, I'll come and do this. And they decided, all right, I'm going to do it because I love him so much. And they did it. So maybe it was somewhat like I'm doing it because I like him, even though I don't really like it. That doesn't make it a crime. Jesus Figueroa said she always felt coerced because he beat her. I wouldn't go that far. Again, look at the text messages or listen to the text messages as they were read aloud in court. And the people who reported talked about that she was sending texts saying, I love it. I had such a great time. I want to do it again. When can we do another one? So to say that she always felt coerced, yeah, she can make that case on the stand, but then those text messages undermine what she just said. And again, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. Is there a reasonable, the text messages themselves to Jesus Figueroa's comment, it's a good comment because this is what cases get built on. This right here. I felt coerced because he beat me that one time and this time. So then the next 10 times we had sex, I was worried about getting beat again. So that's the reason why I kept doing it, even though I didn't want to do it. And I acted like I liked it, even though I didn't like it because I didn't want to get my ass whipped in front of the elevator anymore. The challenge to that point is the following. The text messages where she said, when can we do it again? I miss you. I love it. I want to do it again. She was saying that in the text messages. Those text messages introduce what we call a reasonable doubt. And in order to get a guilty verdict in a criminal case, you must prove your case beyond the reasonable doubt. But there is a reasonable doubt. So there's no way you can prove that beyond a reasonable doubt when a reasonable doubt is right there. On that alone, there's no case here. Just on that alone, it's not guilty. How they could come back with a guilty verdict is beyond me, but I would want to see. We got to see what happens. I mean, we might get an answer. I think the jury's deliberation is not going to take that long. Personally, I don't think it's going to take that long, but we'll see. I would hope we have an answer before the 4th of July, but I could be wrong. Strategic said Rico has to be connected to an enterprise defined as a large organization. Well, he has a large organization. But again, they're trying to say it was a criminal enterprise. And again, I don't see it. Jesus said, address the domestic assault. That's not part of the charges, Jesus. I talked about that earlier. I don't know if you came in the middle. Did he beat his girlfriend's ass in front of the elevator? Yes, he did. He admitted to it, and nobody's questioning that. That's not the charge. He's not charged with domestic abuse. DJV said, imagine defending Diddy's character. I'm not defending his character. I'm defending the legalities. Character is not a crime, no matter what it is. Jesus said it's part of the trafficking story. Yes, it's part of the trafficking story, but is it proof? Does it prove the crime? No, it doesn't. Welcome to Dubai. Shout out to Dubai. And he said, what about Justin Bieber? What about him? He ain't part of this case. Will says, someone is paying you to indulge in the acts. You're also culpable. Well, culpable of what? Indulging in sex is not a crime. Sharon said, the ones who does wrong gets off in America. Wrong what? Depends on what they did, Sharon Thompson. What they do that was wrong. And how are you judging wrong? Are you judging it legally or are you judging it morally? Because morally is not a crime. Legally is a crime. And then you have to prove it. That's the reason why we have court. Sharon said, what about Justin Bieber? He was so high he couldn't see. Well, he wasn't part of the case. A lot of people bringing up Justin Bieber. Kenisha, thank you for the follow. Carla, congrats on the gifter badge. Richie said, what the Morpheus, what does that even mean? We're at 64,000 likes, folks. Can we get to 70? Please, 70,000 likes. Tamara Lucero, thank you for the follow. Denise says she shouldn't be loyal. Well, she ain't, Denise. As I said, these hoes ain't loyal. So you're right. She ain't loyal. So she's doing exactly what you said she should do. Jeezy said, if Puff beats this case, he'll be the richest black man on the planet after suing major media outlets too many. Well, all that's going to do is offset all the lawsuits he's going to have to pay. So all that's going to do is allow him to break even. Strategic. He's going to break even because he's about to get a ton of lawsuits, especially if he loses. If he loses, people are going to try to sue him before the feds take all his money because right now they probably have frozen his assets. So the thing that makes Puff Daddy is the money that he had access to. If he loses, they're going to freeze all his assets, take his money because it's all under his criminal enterprise so they can confiscate it. If he wins, he gets his money back, but now he's got to pay off all these lawsuits. But in the end, he'll end up more up than down if he wins. If he loses, they taking all that shit. Jay says she doesn't owe him. Clearly. Beeb said, damn, did she reject you or something? Man, is this how long is it going to last that we have these arguments from both females and feminine energy males that anytime a man offers a criticism of a woman, there's some form of she rejected you or some woman has hurt you or something's wrong with you as a man because you criticize a woman. A woman can be criticized the same way a man can be criticized, especially if we're talking about their behavior. Now, when I say these hoes ain't loyal, it's a figure of speech, but all of you know exactly what I mean. She went and testified against that man. She was with him for 10 years. She's with another man, and he hired to help her with her fitness. She goes and dates that man behind his back, got $20 million out of him after suing him, and then testified in court against him. Even if she was subpoenaed, she's still, the optics of it, these hoes ain't loyal. All right, that's what it is. All right, if any of you want to take that personal, you got a right to do that. Let's see. Bella, good morning. Jennifer WWP, good morning. Lacey Rivers sent the love you so much. Thank you, Lacey. Courtney, good morning to you. Traditional, thank you for the lit up rose. Courtney, thanks for the rose. Traditional, thank you for the rose. Carla. Bob Lazar said, look at me. I put a suit on and think I'm educated. Bob Lazar, congratulations. Straw Man of the Day by Bob Lazar. Can everybody give a round of applause? Can you put clapping emojis in the comments for Bob Lazar? And by the way, I'm reading the comments oldest to newest, by the way, so I'm not ignoring anybody's comment. Bob Lazar with the straw man of the day. And this is also an appeal to ridicule. And it's a little bit ad hominem. Straw man, for those who don't know, is when someone takes something that you said or they think you said, and then they rephrase it or pose it as something that they see, and then they throw it back at you in the form of ridicule or a question or just a statement. So Bob with a little bit of appeal to ridicule and straw man here by saying that, look at me, I put on a suit and think I'm educated. So I guess he calls himself mimicking me or mocking me. And I never used the word educated in this entire live stream. And all educated means, Bob, since you brought it up, all educated means that you went to school and you passed some classes. And I do possess a college degree. So technically, I guess I qualify as quote unquote educated, but I don't walk around telling people that I'm educated, nor do I tell people I have a college degree because they are completely irrelevant to the type of business that I do these days. Actually, they've always been irrelevant ever since I walked off my college campus. So being educated doesn't mean you know anything, and not being educated doesn't mean you don't know anything. So Bob, this is a nice try. Actually, I can't even give you a nice try. This is an okay try, but you got to come with something better than this. So some of you saying guilty AF. I'm seeing a bunch of guilties and a bunch of not guilties. April Finney said guilty. Richard said not guilty. Maddie said undecided, so I have reasonable doubt. If you're undecided, then it's not guilty. That's what it is. The real obligation said, not my business. Well, technically, it's not anybody's business except the people involved in it, but we all got an opinion. Gemini say he's going to be guilty of the RICO. I don't see that, but we'll see what they come up with. 14th Amendment said, after your commentary, not guilty. Oh, well, I'm glad I got you to see things a certain way. I need to be a lawyer. I should go back to school and get a law degree. Let's see. Renee said he's a freak, but we've known that for years. And so did everyone that played along. Yes, everybody's known that. But again, being a freak ain't a crime. On air, CK said, I'm saying not guilty, but how can someone say guilty? A lot of people, or you mean comments? The people in the comments saying, I think a lot of people just either don't like Diddy or they don't like the stories around the charges, such as beating the shit out of his girlfriend in the elevator. I mean, there's nothing you can say to kind of play that off. Like, he beat the shit out of his girlfriend in the elevator. Everybody saw him do it. He admitted to doing it. So you beat the shit out of your girlfriend in front of an elevator, in front of the world, and everybody saw it. He even came out with a video apologizing for it. There's a bunch of people who are never going to mess with Diddy because of that alone. It don't even matter anything else. On camera, it'd be one thing if you did it and it was a story. It's another thing it was on camera. Because when it first came out that he got sued, because what happened is Cassie sued him for $30 million, whatever the amount was. And in the lawsuit, because the lawsuit was public, the lawsuit said he would beat me. He came out, his lawyers came out and said, all these accusations against me are false. I plan on, and I look forward to clearing my name. That's what he said the day the lawsuit came out. Then at the same time, that video dropped of him beating her ass in the elevator. Then within 24 hours, within 48 hours, he settled the lawsuit because damn, all right, I can't front on that. Then within 24 hours of that video coming out, he put a video on social media basically apologizing for what he did in the video. When just before that, he said, these allegations are false and I'm going to clear my name, because he could do that when it was just words. When the video came out, he couldn't deny that, and then he had to own that shit. And then right after that, the Fed said, we got him. They went and called Cassie. They said, all right, we won't charge you if you help us get him, and here we are. So Diddy messed up by beating his girlfriend's ass in front of the elevator. I mean, he got to own that. Now, you beat your girl's ass in front of the elevator. We can't act like that didn't happen. That happened. Had he not did that, we might not be here right now. And he tried to get that video erased, but the dude recorded it on his phone. That's the only reason that it came out. The security guard recorded the video on his phone. Diddy paid $100,000 to get the video deleted. Y'all know about that? This is all in the court case. So Diddy knew after he beat Cassie's ass in front of the elevator. All y'all saw that video, right? He went to the security of the hotel and said, yo, I need to get that video. I need to get that footage. All right, I don't want anybody keeping that footage. And he paid the security $100,000 for the footage. Was it $100,000? I think it was $100,000. It was a significant amount of money. 5-figure, it might have been even 6 figures for the footage. And like half the money, one security guy kept, then another half he gave to the other guy, and they split the money up. But the security guy who was working when it happened, he filmed the footage. He filmed the film on his phone. So he had the footage of the Diddy beating Cassie's ass on his phone. He only filmed it not to blackmail Diddy. He filmed it before Diddy even came and said, let me get the footage. He filmed it on his phone because he was going to show it to his wife. Like, yo, look at this. This dude beating his girl's ass in the hotel elevator. And by the way, security, they ain't come and arrest Diddy for doing that. But anyway, he films it, has it on his phone, and he always kept it. He gets the money from Diddy. They give him the footage. So Diddy gets rid of the footage. So he thinks the footage of him beating Cassie's ass doesn't exist. That footage later on comes out and, of course, bites him in the ass, goes in and gets him because of what happened in the situation. That was part of the case as well, that this is one of the ways that Diddy would use his money and his influence to basically do criminal stuff and get away with it, because beating your girl's ass like that is a crime. He got away with it because, or he quote unquote got away with it because he paid off the security to get the footage, but he didn't know that there was still some footage out there. So again, Diddy beating Cassie's ass on camera is the smoking gun, so to speak, in this whole case, because it wouldn't happen if they didn't have that footage. Nikki said one of them still has the rent being paid. Yeah, 50 cents baby mom. Traditional says somehow I think he will be found not guilty. He should be. Logically and objectively, he should be found not guilty. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, though. Gilstonin Bristlin, thank you for the follow. Mr. Midnight said they would have had better luck taking him to court for Biggie and Tupac. Yeah, and we see how that turned out. It's been 30 years. Nick said juror will go off video and feelings instead of actual facts. Maybe one juror would, Nikki, but I don't think all. Is it 9 jurors or 12 jurors? However many it is, I don't think all of them will. Maybe one, but not all of them. Good fellas, thank you for the follow. We're going to go about 20 more minutes here, folks, then we're going to wrap this up. Chris Lee said, speaking bad about the liquor company that's worth trillions of dollars is not a good idea. Yeah, you're right about that. That was Ciroc, right? Well, Ciroc was the brand, but the company that owned it, Diddy had, you're right about this. So this is something that Chris Lee 6'9" just said. This needs to be pointed out. That, what was that, maybe about a year or two before this case came, Diddy filed a lawsuit against the company. Was it either Ciroc or DeLeon, whichever, because Diddy has more than one spirit company. He sued them for, how much did he sue that company for? It was like $100 million. It was a lot of money. Let me see if I can find that out. But I remember that lawsuit coming out. What was the company that Diddy sued, who he said basically used racism against him to not promote him properly, the liquor company he was working with? How much did he sue him for, and what year was that? So I remember it because the lawsuit was saying that, oh, they didn't promote me properly because I'm black, and they promoted other companies over me, and they hurt the power of the brand. And he sued him for like $100 million because he was saying they didn't do right by him. And a lot of people were saying, Diddy, you better be careful flying too close to the sun, suing these white folks. They got a lot more power and a lot more money than you. Something might come back to you now that you're doing that. And then not too long after, he got this Fed case. So some people are saying that that was part of it. So the company is called Diageo, Diageo. So they're a London-based company. They're the ones who were behind Ciroc and DeLeon Tequila. Those are the two brands that Diddy was often promoting. They weren't even Diddy's companies. He was just a promoter. And this is in May of 2023 is when Diddy sued these companies. Then he got the Fed case happen. He got arrested and his houses got raided in like a year after that. And now we're here at the case a year after that. So he claimed racial discrimination. He sued these companies for racial discrimination. He said they kneecapped his brand by relegating them to an urban market, quote unquote. This is part of the lawsuit. And they didn't invest in them properly. And he wanted billions with a B, billions of dollars in damages. And it forced them to provide equal treatment, quote unquote, originally promised. Now, the lawsuit got settled in January of 2024. And Diageo basically took control of those brands. So you know how Puff was promoting Ciroc like every day, maybe 15 years ago? And then this De Leon tequila, he did the same thing. Now people realize Diddy never owned those brands. Diddy was just working for them. And he just put his face on it. And now Diageo, they settled the lawsuit. So who knows how much money he got, if any. And they took control over the brand. So now Diddy no longer has any control over Ciroc or De Leon. And what some people were saying was, Diddy, you better be careful playing with these white folks because they got connections you ain't got. And 6 months later, Fed case. Now, does that mean one led to the other? No, but it is something that needs to be on the record. So Chris Lee, thanks for pointing that out. Legion of Room said, I was waiting for the prosecution to drop a bombshell, but all they said is Diddy is a freak. Yeah, pretty much. I agree with that. Now, I thought there would be some bombshell witness like Usher or Justin Bieber or somebody come up and they'd be like, oh my God, Diddy has no chance now. But that didn't happen. It was just a bunch of girls basically getting on the stand and crying. And I don't know. Maybe I lack empathy, but that ain't enough for a criminal case. You can't do that. You can do that in a civil case, but not a criminal case. Classy said, you're going to a Diddy party. After midnight, you better run. LOL. No, you got to run after. If I go to a Diddy party, I'm just watching everybody else. As soon as people start leaving, I'm leaving. All right, if Jay-Z leaves, I'm leaving. All right, whenever Jay-Z leaves the party, I'm leaving the party. Doesn't mean I'm leaving with Jay-Z. What I'm saying is when Jay-Z leaves and LeBron James leaves, I'm leaving. All right, when they leave, I'm going home. As a matter of fact, to keep it real, if I go to a Diddy party, I ain't even trying to be at the party. I'm going to go to the party for one reason. I'm trying to meet some girls. So I'm going to go in there, try to meet a girl as quickly as possible, and I'll leave. I ain't trying to dance. I'm not trying to get drunk either. I don't even drink. I'm going to a Diddy party just to meet the girls. So as soon as I meet a girl, if that takes me 10 minutes, it takes me an hour, I'm out as soon as that's done. So shout out to Diddy for that. So Just Chaz, I know you're going to give us some heady perspective. Really, Just Chaz, like, what grade are you in? Really? That's what you came up with? That's the best comment you can come up with? Really? KB said he won't be found guilty on everything. Yeah, agree. And by the way, everybody, Diddy could be found guilty on some things and not guilty on others. So it's not an all or nothing thing. It's not a black and white. So he could get guilty on a few and not guilty on others. I think he should be not guilty on everything, personally. Jessica said, was the Justin thing true? Justin who? Justin Bieber or Justin his son? Kay said he's not guilty on everything. Oh, you're saying he's going to be blanket not guilty. I agree with you. Tyler said, wasn't he drugging the girls? They were using pharmaceuticals, but it wasn't like he would do it and then take advantage of them and then they would wake up the next day not knowing what happened. It wasn't like that, Tyler. But they were all using, but they were actively partaking. That's the thing. They were voluntarily involved in this. Nikki says she had to clear herself for the prosecution to make it look bad for him. Yeah, I know she did. I get it. Traditional said if they get him in 2 RICOs, that's all they need. Also true. I don't think they're going to get it. Jessica said the government is overreaching and they're clearly trying to expand the RICO Act beyond its original purposes. I also agree with that, Jessica Marie. I agree with that. They're taking RICO and trying to make it into something else. And this is the overreach by the government, which is why they might lose this case. Hokey Gigi, thank you for the follow. KB says he's not guilty of RICO. I agree. Live Free said, Dre, you said men wanted to be like him. I'm not saying every man in the world, not even myself. What I'm saying is he created a brand and an image. The reason Diddy is because he created a brand and image, not just because of the music. There's a lot of people who make good music. They don't have the fan base that he has, and they don't have 30-year careers, 35-year careers like he has. He created an image that everybody wanted to copy. By the way, just to keep it real, any of you ever gone to a club and you see, first of all, you go into a club and you see the VIP section and people want to be in VIP in the club, that's because of Diddy. If you see bottle service in a club, that's because of Diddy. If you see a famous person going to the club or you're about to go to the club and you see the little flyer and it says Kim Kardashian is going to be at the club tonight, or Nicki Minaj is going to be at the club, they call that a walkthrough. Those who don't know what that is. A walkthrough is when a famous person gets paid money to literally walk through the club, sit in VIP, have a couple drinks, take some pictures, pretend like they're partying. They get paid $20,000 for doing that. That's because of Diddy. Diddy created the entire lifestyle of nightclubs, popping bottles, having a good time partying, and tying it to your actual career in business. That is all because of Diddy. So even if you're not trying to be like Diddy as a person, if you ever gone to a nightclub and you saw that, or you partook, or you went to a club because some famous person who you have affinity for was going to be at that club, that's because of Diddy. He created the entire industry of what the nightclubs are to this very day. That's just a fact. You don't have to like Diddy to accept that fact. Bottle service, walkthroughs, the sparklers, the girls walking around with the sparklers to give a bottle to somebody and drawing all the attention. Diddy created that entire industry and turned it into a business. Now, most people, when they go to the club, you're just spending money. Diddy turned it into, I'm going to make money by getting everybody else to spend money. That's the business. That's the business genius of what he did. Federal court said the prosecution got their marching orders. The girls weren't scared after he jerked her in the hall. Oh, no, I skipped something. Oh, they have an agenda. Oh, they absolutely have an agenda. You're right about that one. TJ Superior, thanks for the follow. We got 10 minutes here, folks. 12 minutes, and then we're wrapping up. Not Billable said prosecutors made a good point. It doesn't have to be coercive every time. Yeah, but then it still introduces reasonable doubt. And reasonable doubt, I'm going to say, means you can't convict. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And that's where I'm sticking. Legion of Room said, I think these girls knew his reputation before they engaged with him. Fair enough. Scott said, sadly, they tried to portray she couldn't get away. Kind of. She got away, married kid. She has 3 kids with that guy, not just 1. 14 says, there a racial component to this case. Not a huge one, but the defense has brought it up. They said this is a successful black man. So they dropped the hint. They shouldn't overdo it, though. You don't want to overdo that because people are starting to get tired of that shit. True said, I'm expecting the worst and hoping for the best, guilty on all charges. So what's the best? Is the best guilty or not? Jessica says, the Justin Bieber thing true. What's the thing? I don't know what you're referring to. Cool Jules said, agreed that he will not be charged. Agreed that he will not be charged for what he is, well, not found guilty, you mean. He's already been charged. But to go back and add a DV, no, the DV, the statute of limitations is up, and that would be in the state of California, not the feds. Statute of limitations is up. So, no, he's not going to get it. Jessica, thanks for the follow. Traditional said he will make that money back. Well, all he actually need, he don't really need to make more money. All he needs is just to get the money he already got and have access to it. I think the feds probably froze his money right now. Executive Bonds said, I like this channel, speaking truth. Well, thank you, Executive Bonds. Vivian said, if he wins, I think he should be charged with domestic violence at the very least. The statute of limitations on that, beating his girl's ass, is up, folks. They cannot charge him with that. Statute of limitations is up. So they can't do it. And that would be in the states of California. That would not be in the feds. Right now, this is a fed case, not a state case. By the way, for those who don't understand, if you do a crime within a state and it just happened in that place, then the state has to bring charges. If you do a crime that goes across multiple states, that's when you get a federal case. Diddy has a federal case because the things that he was allegedly doing happened across multiple states in America. That's why the feds are controlling this case. But if he did all of this same stuff and it only happened in California, it would be a state case, the state of California against Diddy. The reason it's the feds against Diddy is because it involves multiple states, so they take jurisdiction. So it could be the same thing. It would just be California. And in that situation, there'd be cameras in the courtrooms, which means we could see all this stuff, but we can't see it because it's feds. Black American said, recommend a book for a black 25-year-old black man, please. Give me some context about the man. What are you doing? Where are you trying to go? What are your biggest challenges right now? Tell me that. I can give you a better recommendation. Roy Nation, Nina's World, Juan, thank you for the follow. Cher said, black man said he's hating because he has no suits. Maybe. Vivian says, straw man need to take lessons from you. Well, a lot of people use straw mans, don't even realize that they're using them. So that's the reason why I point them out. Bidet said, people are so rude. What took so long for these people to come out and why participate so long? Interesting. Scott said that it only happened once the beating. No, it's happening before that. She claims. 50's baby mom even admitted that there was some domestic stuff. And sometimes they would hit him back. Like, it ain't like he was just beating them and they weren't fighting back. not fighting, but sometimes they would hit him too, throw stuff at him, etc. This is the way they were living. Jason said, verdict today or later this week. I hope it's later this week, but the jury can deliberate for as long as they want. So for those of you who don't know, jury deliberations go as long as they need to go. So if they deliberate for a whole month straight, they'll deliberate for a whole month straight. But a jury is usually motivated to get the hell out of there because you got to understand, jurors, these are everyday people. They got 9 to 5 jobs. But right now, every day they have to go to this courtroom and deliberate, and they can't stop deliberating until they come to a verdict, guilty or not guilty, and they must all agree. It must be unanimous. It has to be all of them, not a majority, unanimous. Everybody has to have the same opinion, and they can't stop doing that until they all agree, which means the jury is going to kind of get fatigued. Like, yo, we're not going to keep coming here every day. Let's get on the same page fast so we can get the hell out of here and get back to our regular lives, because they don't want to be doing this shit, coming to court every day. It ain't like they're living in luxury coming to court every day. Y'all been to a courthouse? Not the place you want to hang out every day. Vivian said, how can everyone... So, Jason, to answer your question, it could be at any period. It could be one day. It could be a month. I think it's going to be pretty quick. My prediction is pretty quick. I'm thinking just on human nature level, that the jury is going to try to come to a conclusion before the end of the day on Thursday so that they can enjoy their holiday weekend. That's what I'm thinking. They want to get to the holiday weekend without having to do this shit again on Monday. And that has nothing to do with how fast they're going to come to a conclusion. I'm just talking. That's just my personal theory, that they want to get the hell out of this and get back to their regular lives. I'm sit in the fucking courtroom every day. It ain't like, and by the way, if you get called for a jury, it's not like you get paid you get $1 million because you're on the jury. You don't get shit. But you just got to sit there and do this shit every day until they tell you can leave. I don't want to do that. Last time I was at, what do they call it, jury duty? This is a long time ago. It was maybe 2010, last time I got called. And they were about to choose me for the jury because I'm a very objective person. So they were about to choose me for the jury. But then I said, hey, I run a business, and if I'm here doing this, I can't run my businesses. I got a financial hardship, et cetera, and they let me leave. But they almost picked me for the jury. I ain't trying to serve one of the juries. Sorry, Diddy, you let somebody else do that shit. Cindy said it was a catch and grab. They just want the freak off tapes. Probably won't get any time. We'll see. We got 5 minutes on this live, folks, and then we're going to wrap this up. Why is it if someone famous takes a stand is a different no-name person? Well, Derek, that's because the reason that they gave 50 Cent's baby mom a name, actually, I don't know the official reason. I think they're just trying to protect her identity because she was up there sounding crazy, just describing her lifestyle. She was doing some real wild shit. And because she has kids, I think they're just trying to protect her reputation. But everybody knows who she is. So it didn't really do that. And 50 Cent was even calling her out. 50 Cent himself was basically making jokes about his own baby mom when she took the stand. Cabernet said he's definitely going to be found guilty. Okay, so we're getting some different opinions here. Jessica, you've asked the Justin Bieber question like 5 times. I don't know what thing you're referring to. Cabernet said, y'all know what a RICO is. LOL. Oh, yes, we do. I read it out loud at the beginning of this live stream, Cabernet. Straight from the court case. Big Mick said, Clubman paying celebrities to show their faces before Diddy. Diddy made it into a business is what I'm saying, Big Mix. He made it into a business. He made bottle service into a business. He made the sparklers into a business. He make money by doing this, not just go to the club and party and spend money. He made it into make money. He made it into a business is what I'm saying. And he made it way bigger than anybody who was doing it before him. Same way Michael Jordan didn't invent basketball, but he helped turn it commercial in ways that no one before him had done. Miss D said they were willing participants for a personal gain. I'm praying for a not guilty verdict. Yeah, I think he's getting freed. McLean said, I surely don't love Diddy. I don't love him either. I don't know Diddy, so I don't know him to love him. But logically speaking, he should beat this case. That's what I'm saying. PB Ent said, will R. Kelly get out? Yeah, after he serves his sentence. R. Kelly is convicted already. So, someone said that he videoed Justin Bieber. Well, it didn't come out in the case. So, I don't know. It didn't come out in the case. Golden Kid said, I think he's getting out by tomorrow. It's very possible. I hope it happens before the end of the week, because if it happens before the end of the week, guarantees y'all we doing another live talking about this. I got other things to talk about too, but guaranteed I'll be doing another live talking about this if it happens. Jackie said, even if they found him not guilty, most people always associate him with being a criminal, in my opinion. Well, you're right about that, Jackie. Everybody knows that he was doing some wild shit in the bedroom, and they know he beat his girlfriend's ass. Those two things are guaranteed. We all accept those as true. Now, how you feel about it is a different story. But did it happen? Yes, it did. So those two things are guaranteed. There's no doubt about it. Now, as far as how he can move about after this, I think Diddy has some Teflon to him as far as his reputation in the business world. Yes, 14th Amendment, you're correct. The whole country is the United States as a country, the feds against him, not the state. Husband said, we never heard the hit back part. Oh, yeah, it was testified in court. Husband unmatched anywhere. It was testified in court. They talked about sometimes they would throw stuff at Diddy and they would hit him first, and because they be arguing and stuff. Just people in relationships. I'm not saying everybody in relationships beats each other up, but in some relationships, that's just the way they operate. That's just their thing. Throwing shit at each other, smacking each other. This is what they do. Scott said, the longer the jury deliberates, I'm thinking not guilty. It depends on who the jury is, Scott and Mitch. I get what you're saying, but it depends on who the jury is. Because they might all, let's say when they first walk into the jury deliberation room, they're all like, not guilty. All right, done. All right, judge, we're ready. They might all already be on the same page. The reason that it takes longer is when you got some jurors on one side and some jurors on the other side, and they're both trying to convince each other and figure it out. How do we get on the same page here? That's when it takes more time. But if they're all on the same page as far as guilty or not guilty, then it'll be very quick. Mallory said, do I think R. Kelly will be set free? Yes, after he completes his sentence, after he serves his time. He's already been convicted. So, I don't know. Miss D said, that's what said Thursday. What got said? Elisa said, you get $7 a day. Serving on jury duty? Is it really $7? Scott Mitt said, I think it's $12 in my state. That's crazy. Milu said, 3 days of court, I was fatigued. Yeah, fuck that shit. I did one day. I just did the jury duty just to go and sit there and answer the questions and shit. I didn't even get chosen, and I wanted to get the hell out of there. I said, I'm trying to make sure this never happens again. Nothing you can do about it, but I think if you have a full-time job, the job has to pay you when you have jury duty. Is that true? Anybody know? If you're a full-time employee, the job still must pay you even though you can't come to work. I believe that's the law. Somebody let me know. Michelle, good morning. All right, 2 more minutes, folks, and then we're wrapping this live stream up. Corey said, if Trump can walk, Diddy can walk. And I don't know if I would compare Trump to Diddy in this case. Trump has a lot more power than Diddy. But I get what you're saying. So everybody said yes. And Beach Bum says some jobs do, some jobs don't. I think it's federally required. I think it's a federal law. Oh, it's not? So Cheyenne said not all jobs had to pay you, unfortunately. I guess it depends on what kind of job you have. But I thought every job had to pay you if you had jury duty because you can't come to work. So what, you just don't make any money? And the court is forcing you to be there. So they just make you broke for a month? I don't know if that's possible, folks. We got to check on this. Let me check on this because that don't sound right. So what if I get chosen for jury duty? I have to go because the court mandated. If I don't go, I go to jail. And the case takes 2 months and my job doesn't have to pay me. So I just don't make no money for 2 months. That doesn't make any sense. That can't possibly be real. Question about jury duty. If someone gets chosen for jury duty, is their job, if they're fully employed, full-time employed, does the job have to pay them compensation during the time that they're chosen for the jury duty? I'm guessing if the case is 2 or 3 months long that they can't go to work, there's no way they can just not make money. And how much money do you get to serve on a jury? All right, let's get to the bottom of this. So maybe it's the state that pays you. Okay, so I'm seeing some people say civil service, yes, not all jobs. So maybe the state has to compensate you. Maybe the state just got to pay you whatever you get paid. So here's the full breakdown. The federal law does not require employees to pay you while you serve on jury duty. Okay, that's the first thing. But some states do require it for a limited number of days, like the first 3 to 5 days. This Diddy case has been a month. So they say some states require it for a limited number of days. Many employers voluntarily pay you for the time that you serve, which is still tricky because what if they say no? They cannot legally fire you or retaliate against you. So you can't get fired, but they don't have to pay you. So if I'm on the jury for 2 months and I make all my money from my job and I'm not on the jury for 2 months, I just didn't make any money for 2 months. How is that possible? So how much do you get paid as a juror? Okay, in federal court is $50. If the trial goes over 10 days, it could be $60. So $50 a day. That's $250 a week. That's $1,000 a month. That ain't enough money. No, this ain't enough. So the jurors in the Diddy case get paid $50 a day, probably $60. They get mileage reimbursement. What the fuck is that? I don't care about that. In state court, it could be anywhere from $5 to $50 a day. New York City is $40 a day. This is nothing. A whole day, $50. Everybody makes more than that at their job. Now, what if the trial lasts a long time? It can become a hardship. And you could tell the court that, hey, it would be a hardship, so I can't do it. If it's a high-profile trial, some courts allow higher compensation or accommodations, but rare. And you can also request a deferral if you're self-employed. That's what I told them, hey, I got my own business. I can't be doing this shit. That's crazy. Okay, so y'all were right. I thought that would be too ridiculous to be true, but it's actually true. You don't get any money. You just sit there and you ain't making no money. How? I'm not serving on the jury. We'll just say that. I ain't serving on any juries. Liv said, I'm a union vice president. They get paid by the job. Well, that's assuming that you work somewhere where there is a union. Not everybody has a union. Cheyenne said, I got picked. It lasted a week. I got $40 a day. My job didn't pay me. That's crazy. So you just didn't make any money for a week except that $40. Yeah, that's crazy. Jack said, what are my thoughts on Karen Reed? I heard about it, but I didn't look at it too deeply, so I don't really have much on it. Michelle said, my job didn't pay me. I work at a large corporation. Wow. Yeah, I don't want to. Knowing this, I thought your job had to just pay you whatever you're supposed to make. They had to pay you anyway. I didn't know they didn't have to pay you. Michael said, AI is wrong 30% of the time. Well, I'm pretty discerning, Michael. It depends on what questions you're asking, if they're right or wrong. If you ask certain types of questions, they could be wrong 80% of the time, depending on what you ask. If you ask the right question, then it's right 99% of the time. So it depends on the quality of the question. Maddie said, I got $9 a day in state court. That's crazy. Scott said it's considered a civic duty. Yeah, fuck that. It's considered a civic duty for me to pay taxes, right? So if I ain't making no money, I can't pay taxes. So I need to go make some money, Judge. I ain't serving on this jury. I'm sorry. You go find somebody else. Sade said they can write books, do interviews, and get paid. Yeah, assuming you're on a jury that people give a fuck about. Most juries, nobody cares. The case that I almost got chosen for was some nobody dude who got charged with some type of, what was he charged with? I don't even remember what it was. Nobody knew who he was. I ain't writing no book about that. Nobody give a damn. Nobody even heard of this dude. So, yeah, that's crazy. But anyway, speaking of time, folks, we wrapping this up. I usually want to end these. Sometimes I go to 10. Sometimes I want to go to 9:30. Today is 9:30. I think we're going to go to 9:30. I think we might adjust this as the new end time is 9:30. We're already at 9:33, which makes me technically late. I do these lives Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. So I'll be here all week, Monday through Friday. I will probably go live on Friday, 4th of July. I got to find out what my gym schedule is on Friday, 4th of July. I will probably go live that day. Don't know yet, but stay tuned. I'll find out this week what the schedule is going to be for Friday. But I do definitely am going live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Every business day, I'm live at 8 a.m. Eastern on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Rumble. So I'm live in 7 different places right now. I'm just reading comments from TikTok because all the comments are on TikTok. And I usually have the most people on TikTok. But I'm live in 7 different platforms. If you like this one, come back tomorrow. Click the link in my bio. You can get access to my books. I give a bunch of my books away for free. This is the Sales Discipline System. This book is all about how to step your sales game up. Those of you who are entrepreneurs or in the sales business, I created a system for selling. This is a system for selling, not motivation, not hype up. This is Sales Discipline System. Get this book for free at the link in my profile. Just go to that link in my profile. It'll take you to a page called Work on Your Game Live. It has links to all my free books, my email list, my coaching programs. All of that stuff is here. We're at 99,000 likes, folks. To get to 100K. 100K likes, folks. I'm filibustering until we get to 100K likes. And what else I need to tell you? You can follow me on Instagram. The replays, all these live streams are on my YouTube channel. My YouTube link is in my profile. Again, on TikTok. Those of you watching on YouTube, Rumble, or others, y'all can see the links in my profile as well. Appreciate everybody. I will see you all tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock Eastern. Early is on time. When time is late, late is forgotten. I'm late right now. I won't be forgotten, so let's get out of here. I will see you all tomorrow. Work on your game. Write down your goals for the month of July. We out. Thank you, moderators.